The obligatory Statue of Liberty shot tells us that we're in a future New York City. Oh no, Commander Ed Mercer, is bored as he seems to be coming home from work. We hear a woman laughing in the background, and Ed goes to take a look. We see a woman getting it on with a blue alien. This potentially emotional scene is undercut by an ejaculation joke because, haha, Seth MacFarlane. Credit to the actor for keeping a straight face. We're meeting the Admiral. He tells Ed that he's shit, but they have over 3,000 ships, so they're giving him command of the titular Orville. It's a mid-level exploratory ship, so we're not getting the Union's version of the Enterprise. Ed's dreams come true, it's time to get the helmsman. You can't have a Star Trek parody without the holodeck, environmental simulator. Gordon Malloy is sparring with an alien. Will Malloy's programming skills ever come in handy again? We get a brief comedy scene where Malloy drinks on the job and then almost crashes because Gordon Malloy is a dick. Now, I've heard people complain about the Orville's design. Say what you will about it, I really like it. It's time to meet the crew. We have the young chief of security, Alara. She's the scrawny alien who is actually the strongest one on the ship. Will she be Worfed? John Lamar is the navigator. Another poor joke is all we get about his background. Bortus is part of a single-gender species. We'll ignore the jokes here, mostly because they were spoiled from the trailers, and compliment the character arc that's coming soon. Captain Cassidy Yates, whoops, wrong show. Dr. Claire Finn is next. Considering this wise old mentor role they build up for her, it's a shame that it never happens. Thankfully, her arc ends up being satisfying in the end. Isaac is an interesting twist on Data. Unlike his inspiration, Isaac is at home being the superior artificial life form that he is. We're given the reason why Malloy was put on desk duty. He crashed a shuttle while trying to impress a girl. It's unfortunate that he's such an immature asshole. We're given a simple resupply mission as a maiden voyage. The show emulates Star Trek the Motion Picture with all the ship porn here, and I've got to say, I am here for it. This is one of the greatest losses with the newest generation of Star Trek shows. Gordon shows more of his immaturity by asking about bars and strip clubs at our destination. The Admiral sends us the name of the executive officer, although the audience isn't told, but you saw the trailers. As an aside, it occurs to me that we haven't heard her name yet. The bridge crew gossip about Ed's ex. Poor Isaac is confused about the metaphors they're all using, but doesn't get an answer. Instead, they answer his question with more metaphors, so he gives up and returns to his work. We meet the XO. We first hear her name, Kelly, while Ed and her are arguing. This argument is uninteresting and was probably responsible for turning a number of viewers away. Kelly and Gordon meet again. It's an awkward conversation, with Gordon lying about not calling her a bitch to the entire bridge crew. Moving on. We arrive at the station and have a chat with the head doctor. This may also be my most hated scene. If you saw the trailers, this felt like it was everywhere, and the dog ball-licking joke had me worried going into the series. It makes this episode a bit of a slog. We're down on the planet. Ed introduces the crew, and even on a rewatch, his attitude towards Kelly is still very cringy and off-putting. We're walking through the lab. As an aside, how big is the Union that Finn, a clearly well-versed doctor, doesn't know about this aquatic species? Also, props to the show for some truly alien life. Thank God for CGI. This interaction about a redwood tree is very skippable, but actually very important. Fuck all of these forced jokes. Just tell us the lab made a time manipulation device. Points go to Alara for recognizing the military usage of the device right away. And of course, now we get the traitor. Oh, sorry about your face, Lady Lab Tech. The Krill show up, and a call from the ship leads to a poor joke in response. Now, I can give Bortus a pass for not realizing Ed and Kelly are under duress as they stumble through their pizza party lie, but fucking hell, Gordon. Of course, he has been designated the mandatory dumb comic relief character. God, his origins are a mess. Ah, it's the Borg. There's so much green. Finally, I can give some points to the writers for making a much more subtle joke that actually works. Our lab doc is told to follow Alara, causing him to ask who that is, as we're all still learning names. Oh look, it's an action pose. Shooting the door before it closes seems like a very bad idea. Also, this is like the one time shooting a panel closes the door instead of opening it. Alara makes a Superman jump while the Krill just sit and watch instead of shooting her. How thoughtful. Meanwhile, the rest of us run through the water feature because reasons. Nice to see the Krill went to the same school as the Imperial Stormtroopers because goddamn do they miss. Up in space, we're getting our ass kicked. Gordon comes up with a bullshit maneuver, but points to him for showing us why he's a good pilot. We take off in a hurry with the lab dock and the device in tow. Somehow, everybody missed the one Krill soldier standing next to the doorway. How the fuck did you miss all of this in that tiny fucking shuttle? Fun seatbelt gag, but if you don't have ways to block inertia, why weren't you pushed into your seats during takeoff? This CGI debris is actually a bit jarring. Like, I know it's all CG, but this takes me out of the immersion. We also lose control of the shuttle, so here comes the Star Trek V landing. Bortus gets a chance to show why he's a competent leader by encouraging Gordon on the difficult maneuver to get the shuttle back in the bay. How is the ship still navigating? And why the fuck would they stop flying in a combat situation, you idiot? Ed returns to the bridge. We hail the Krill to buy us some time, and we skip the spoiled framing joke. Ed and Kelly bring up the marriage again as a distraction, and just fuck the hell off already. At least the Krill agrees and then threatens to destroy the ship if they don't stop. Kelly comes up with our plan to send over the device and remotely trigger it. Mercer pulls out a piece of cereal as he goes with Kelly to make arts and crafts. We then send over the shuttle and grow a large redwood tree through the entire ship. The Happy Arbor Day joke is forced, and we laugh about the people that we just killed. Back at the dock, we actually get a nice scene where Mercer asks Kelly to stay on board as the XO. And there are no jokes to undercut it. We're back in the Admiral's office. Kelly and him reminisce about her father, and she thanks him for trusting her. Now, I'm generally very bad at predicting how plot points are going to go, but even I could see that this hiding from Ed that she talked to the Admiral business was going to become a situation at some point in the future. It's only a shame it takes so long. End of episode. Alright, it's time to award our first set of points. Points go out to the actors for solid performances, even if nothing immediately stands out. We'll also award the writers a point for the learning names joke in the pilot episode. Another point goes to Gordon for showing why he's called a good pilot with his hugging the donkey maneuver, and to Bortus being able to encourage him after just a few hours of knowing him. And time to deduct our first set of points, and no, I'm not tracking these because that would be a headache. We lose a ton of points for the forced jokes and undercutting of scenes that could have had a better impact. Let's get this out of the way. I, and seemingly most people, understand that the show had to be sold on the whole ha-ha Seth funny man making a sci-fi bit by leaning into the funny man aspect. While most people who follow Seth's work should know he's a total nerd, the general public probably only knows him as the Family Guy voiceover man. And that's a shame, because we find out as the series goes on and they stop forcing the humor, that it really can get good in the way that Star Trek was able to make natural jokes out of its characters, like Data flubbing his attempts at humor. The ex-wife subplot is also awful, and we'll touch on that more during the summary. On that note, the ex-wife subplot takes up the whole fucking season, but it starts here. From my own experience, it seems like most people were negative about this aspect for the entire run, and I agree. It leaves some of the weakest writing of the whole show, although I must admit that there were a couple things that did make me laugh out loud throughout the run. As a pilot, it does alright. We get a nice introduction, but none of the characters get a chance to stand out. I would forgive people who put down the show and dismissed it as a Trek parody with limited potential at this point. Thankfully, for those who decide to soldier through Season 1, Seasons 2 and 3 are a much greater improvement. As far as performances, everyone puts in a decent job. Nothing in the acting stands out to me, which seemed like a bit of a departure from others. I'm aware that most people don't like Seth's acting throughout the run, but I don't find it jarring. As I said already, the biggest letdown is the humor being forced down your throat and the ex-wife subplot. Ironically, similar to Encounter at Farpoint, it does a decent enough job at showing us this new world, but it's only really worth rewatching if you're restarting the series. End of review.